Hey guys, welcome to the in-depth video on my recent trip to the Beni. Without any further ado, let's dive straight into the trip. As you know, we live in the city of Santa Cruz, so our trip began at the Santa Cruz bus terminal. From there, we boarded a bus and spent 10.5 hours driving to the city of Trinidad. Trinidad is the capital city of the Beni region. We left Santa Cruz at 9:30 at night and arrived in Trinidad at 8 in the morning. We spent the morning in Trinidad before we packed up and headed to the small town of San Ramon. After a quick stop in San Ramon, we continued on to Magdalena the same day. If you aren't totally sure why I went on this trip or what the purpose of the trip is, I recommend you go check out my shorter version of this video, in which I explain the purpose and history behind the Beni River trip. We ended up having to spend 2 nights in Magdalena due to the rain. Because of Bolivia's poor infrastructure, when it rains in the remote regions, the roads often become unusable. Because of that, we had to wait a day before we could leave for Nueva Brema. However, we were able to leave. This is a really neat river crossing that I covered in one of my last videos. There are many communities that rely on this road right here as the only land route in and out of their community. As I mentioned before, in the rainy season, these roads are often simply unusable. Thankfully, all but one of our vehicles was 4x4, and we were able to cross this flooded section of road. Oh! This stretch between Magdalena and Nueva Brema normally takes 2 hours. That day it took us 5.5. But thank the Lord we made it. Here is where we began preparing the boat for the long trip we had ahead of us. So here you go, here's the boat. Got this on the other side tied off to the main boat to support. Right here we've got a middle floor for luggage and also for people to sleep. And then up top for more people. All of our luggage is here on this boat, on the side boat. More people sleep under here. There are a ton of mosquitoes at night, like a ton. At the kitchen. Down here we got our electrical panel that I was getting cleaned up today. Changed the oil on the motor yesterday, which is incredibly filthy. Yeah, and then we just got some tools there. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 people sleeping here, one on the back porch. There you go. Real quick, let me skip ahead and show you a quick tour of the second boat that we met up with later on. While I show you this boat, I want to explain a little more about Nueva Brema. For years now, it has been a community that has had no interest or desire to have Christianity. However, Inuel has remained persistent, and he has been able to now plant a missionary in Nueva Brema. So we had the awesome opportunity of having Nueva Brema as the first community we got to serve. The doctors were able to attend to the locals, the veterinarians tended to the animals, the pastors put on a kids camp, and as you just saw, I worked on getting the boat ready for the trip. But at the end of the night, we got to put on a small service to share the gospel. The following day at noon, we set off on our journey. However, immediately we ran into some issues. The engine's fuel system had managed to get water in it, and also, the boat was filling with water. But hey, that gave us a cool opportunity to learn the traditional way of fixing the boat. Believe it or not, stuffing fire tinder down into the cracks would stop the leaks. While we were docked and working with the communities, we were extremely busy. However, in between communities on the boat, we had plenty of time to fellowship together, spend time in the Word, and take in God's beautiful creation.
Van caminando por las ciudades que Cristo les dijo una vez. Son misioneros y buen obrero.
The first stop we made was Puerto Siles. Here, we got to share dinner with the pastor of the church that was established by Noel in the river ministry. The second day of travel on the boat was a doozy. However, this is where we met up with a second boat. After a 15-hour day on the river, it was time to find a safe place to dock along the river to sleep for the night. I guess safe would be relative, considering that this jungle is infested with jaguars. Early in the morning, we would begin our travels, headed to Santa Rosa de Vigo. Now unfortunately, because of the delays we faced in Magdalena, we were unable to stop at every single community that we had planned to. 12 hours later, we would arrive in Santa Rosa de Vigo, where we got to once again serve the community with our professions. We once again wrapped the day up by inviting the community to a small service where we had the opportunity to share the gospel. The next morning, we pressed on to the next location, Cooperativa. Yeah. ¿Qué estás comiendo?
Piraña, cola de lagarto, banana de lagarto y feijão.
Y gracias a Dios por él.
Arriba. Tan alto no puedo subir allá, tan profundo no puedo bajar allá, tan ancho no puedo alcanzar allá, maravilloso es.
Our final stop would be Puerto Siles. Here, I had the opportunity to preach.
Cuando predican del misionero de la salvación, unos le dicen de que no hay Dios, otros le dicen de que tarde en venir, unos le dicen Ese,
Cada vez lo pierdo. Ese es
un misionero. No es ese, pues el otro.
el otro misionero. Bueno, punto de qué, de
Está
equivocando.
buenísimo.
Oye, pero hay otro también.
A lo bruto le digo.
Hay varios misioneros.
Todos los que van a ser misioneros.
Ese otro.
El que le inventamos el barco, el que le cambiamos.